No NBA games, just college basketball.
Wow.
UConn and San Diego State. I know you're not excited. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But what I was definitely excited, I'm just hoping for a good game tonight. I'm hoping for a competitive game. But I was excited about the women's game. That was Iowa against LSU. As you know, Rob, I've got ties to both places, born in Louisiana. So all my family, my roots are in Louisiana down in the bayou. But I did live in Iowa for 2.5 years in high school and actually went to the high school that Caitlin Clark went to. And I didn't know her mom or not know her well. I can't remember. But she was there when I was there. She was in my brother's grade, a year behind me. And so just happens to be she's the best player in the country. So I was excited to check that game out. And Rob, LSU was just the better team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They won the championship. Congratulations to them, 102-85. And they had, their great bench play. One of their players came off the bench. Jasmine Carson hit 5 threes. I'm sorry. 5 for 5 in the first half with 21 points. Angel Reese, their star player, the best player. They got another one, Alexis Morris, too. But Angel Reese was the player of the tournament. And Caitlin Clark did her thing. She had 30 points, 8 assists, but shot 9 of 22 from the field. 8 of 19 from Trey. All right. But, Rob, the big story that everyone is talking about was that Angel Clark did taunt Caitlin Clark toward the end of the game when it was pretty clear that they were going to win the game. She did the John Cena, cover your face with your hand. And she was kind of followed Clark during like a break in the action, did the taunt, the you can't see me taunt, and then started pointing to her ring, her finger like, we about to win and get this ring. And Twitter went ablaze. Some Keith Olbermann ridiculously called her an idiot for doing that. I think he was an idiot for tweeting that.
Name calling is terrible anyway.
Yeah,
I think on all levels.
Kid, right, college kid.
It just means you don't have anything to say when you get into name calling.
Right. Just if you make a statement about
it, make a statement, but no name calling. Right.
Absolutely.
No name calling.
A few other people were critical of her in the media, and it just became a huge thing. And do we have sound of Angel Reese talking about it after the game? Okay, here's what she said, Rob.
I'm happy. All year, I was critiqued about who I was. I don't fit the narrative. I don't fit in the box that y'all want me to be in. I'm too hood. I'm too ghetto. Y'all told me that all year. But when other people do it, y'all don't say nothing.
And that, Rob, that was the key right there, because Caitlin Clark, earlier in the tournament against Louisville, she did the same you can't see me gesture to a girl from Louisville, and then later in the game told the girl to shut up, y'all down by 15 points, something to that effect, or that is the quote. And there was very little, if any, I didn't see any criticism of her. It was that she's competitive, look at her swag and all that. And so to me, Rob, now I will say this, and then, we'll get to you. I just want quickly, if Angel Reese does what she does kind of in a vacuum, I have no problem with swag and a little taunting. I think the NBA goes way too far. And, you stare at somebody after you dunked on them for 2 seconds and you get a tech. That's ridiculous. I think you let the emotions of the game play out, and as players talk, that's fine. But if Angel Reese had done what she did, it's kind of a break in the action. You pointing your ring finger, looking the girl in the face, just in a vacuum, like Clark hadn't done anything previously, wasn't, trash talking herself, I would have been like, come on. You're about to win the championship. You don't need to rub it in her face. Like, that's kind of tasteless. But the fact that Clark was doing it early in the tournament and doing it, she just got a cockiness to her game, which is fine. I felt like, you know what, fine. It was all good. And what really bothered me mainly, my main takeaway, is the reaction. If people thought it was fine for Clark to do it, then do not criticize Angel Reese for doing it. If you had criticized Clark, fine, then you could criticize Reese. But you can't, they doing the same thing. You can't be critical of one and think the other one's real positive and it was great that she did it. That was my main problem. And when you interject race with Clark being white, Reese being black, not interject, that might be the reason, that very likely was the reason it was the negative reaction to Reese. So that really is what bothered me about the situation. The taunting's fine. I think she might have went a little far. But again, in the context of the whole tournament, I think it was fine. And to be honest, Caitlin Clark didn't seem to even care. She's a trash talker. She probably gets it if the other girl talks trash. It was what it was. But that's my take on it, Rob.
Yeah, I just think for me, it was just the timing of it. I think what's lost in it is that the whole championship run and everything that happened kind of gets lost today. Nobody talks about it. Right. It's about something else. And there's a time and a place. I'm not against trash talking or any of that stuff. That's a part of the game if you do it inside the game. At the end of this championship, to follow her around and do it where that was going to be the conversation, you kind of take away from your teammates, you take away from your school and your program just for that. That was a glowing moment. 9 million people watched on television. There was a lot of good stuff there.
Excellent, excellent game.
Yeah, and I think that's the only thing that bothers me is that it's lost because, people like train wrecks, Chris. That's what people like, and that's what became the conversation today rather than this incredible run and LSU winning the women's national championship. And so I think that's probably my only issue, not the issue of trash talking and people do it all the time and it's a part of basketball. It just the timing of her doing it. I don't know if she could have done it different earlier before the game was really at the end or whatever. That would be my only criticism is that I think the excellence and all the fame and glory that went for not only her, Chris, but her teammates, her coach, and her school, that went out the window.
Yeah, and obviously, like I said, I think race did have something to do with the different reactions, and I want to get your response to that too, Rob. But I'll say this. Like we said, what she did in and of itself, I was at the dentist today, and my dentist is black, African-American man, and he didn't like what she did. He was like, come on, act like you've been there. Like, you don't have to go out, like that. So my issue, Rob, was mainly with the reaction, though. The difference, I should say, in reaction. Whereas when Clark did it, people didn't. And she did one, I think, during the game. But she also did one in a break in the action. It wasn't quite as exaggerated. Like she didn't, I don't think she was walking toward the girl like Reese was, but she still was looking dead at the girl. The girl was kind of walking toward the bench and she could see her or it looked like from the angles I saw. And so that was my thing. What did you think about, because that seems to be what people are really talking about is the difference in the response. Like, oh, Clark, it was cute. She got swag. Look at all that. But then Reese does it and she's, this terrible, no classless person and all that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, as we know in this country, race is always a part of a conversation. It is a lot of times, not every single time, but a lot.
Right.
And I'm sure there are some people who looked at it that way. I don't know, like, if it was entirely that or just like your black dentist said today, just that he didn't like it.
He didn't even say anything about, like, I don't even know if he knew Clark had done it, but just talking about Reese.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, there are people who just from the sportsmanship thing would say, boy, that's classless. You know what I mean? And so when you start calling people classless, that goes into, what kind of people they are. Oh, you're black, so you calling me class. I don't have any class. Or I think there's a combination of that, Chris. And I think that's where people were, bothered by it and pushed back in defending her rather than, I don't know. And that would be the best thing to find out is if both players were black, you know what I mean? And people still had that reaction at the end of it. Then you would say
then it wouldn't have been race.
Right. It's not race, but it would be like they don't feel good about her. They felt like it wasn't classy. You're winning a championship and you're following around a losing player and kind of mocking her. I think that's the part that we don't know. But there are a lot of people out there, there's no doubt, that will look at two different situational circumstances. We talk about it in life all the time. I mean, there where race does play in, whether people even are conscious of it. You know what I mean? They might even be but we know because we've always been the brunt of a lot of that stuff. I think it's definitely something that black people are way more sensitive to because we've lived it.
Absolutely. It was interesting, Rob, what she also said in that quote about, I don't know if we had it when we played it, but she also said something to the effect of, this was for the girls that look like me and all this and that. Now, look, I'm going to be honest. I don't follow women's basketball that much, particularly college. So I don't know what the women have carried themselves like on the court and all that. But I will say that a lot of the girls look like Angel Reese, meaning they're black. Now, Iowa's team happened to be mostly white, and I think they had an all-white starting five. But, I mean, South Carolina was overwhelmingly black. I think they might have had an all-black starting five. Like, a lot of the teams had mostly black players, too. So, I don't know. Again, I don't know. Is she, like, especially hood? I doubt it. Is she more hood than a lot of the other girls? I tend to doubt it. I don't know. I don't follow it closely enough. But that was an interesting comment to me because, again, blacks playing basketball is obviously a ton of them, men and women. So that was just an interesting comment to me.